All right, everybody. It's the Working Fans Podcast, and it's the man they call Dave, and I'm from a location known as my house. If you hear the neighbor mowing the lawn, I apologize. Hopefully, Joe can edit that out.
It's
And we
just
got my man.
first of all, it's just Dave manscaping. Don't let
Don't
him
worry
fool you.
about that. We got AJ Strangebrew here, and we are going to talk everybody's favorite sitcoms, your top 5 favorite sitcoms. Um, Man, AJ, hold on a second. Let me get ready for this because we had a lot more lists than normal. Joe bailed out. He gave up. He said, "Fuck this shit. I don't want to do this no more."
This is a
So
challenging one because I think the problem that we're going to run into is people have different classifications as to what's a sitcom.
now I have a list here. I'm gonna, in fact, I'm gonna get through a couple. I'm gonna throw this list out real quick because it wasn't really a hard list, but I counted his stuff. I had a conversation with my friend Andy, and he did throw some sitcoms at me. And he said he had Community, Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, Arrested Development, and he said maybe Grounded for Life. He said, I'm sure I'm forgetting something like The Simpsons. And he said that his wife took the sitcoms literally, and she had Frasier, Fresh Prince, Martin, and stuff like that. So now we talked right before this, like you didn't consider like
I don't
The
consider The
Simpsons.
Simpsons a sitcom.
Right,
It's a
right.
cartoon. Then you got to count Ren and Stimpy. I mean, are you going to count freaking Tom and Jerry?
Well, we're
going
gonna get those lists, so I'm gonna tell you right now. But now some of this too has got to be episodic TV as well. I mean, I don't know what Tom and Jerry. Man, you're going back so far. Like I can't put them in the same.
Not only
vein
that,
as,
is it half-hour sitcom? Is it hour sitcom? Are you going to put MASH in the same ballpark as
Nash is gonna get mentioned here. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, it's going to be interesting. This is a very, very large category, especially with 70 years of television. I mean,
I'm gonna
it's
give
a tough
you.
one.
I'm gonna jump one more on you, and then we'll go to your list. Just because this came up in some of the people I messaged. I messaged my main man Rob. He gave me. You're gonna love these lists: Rick and Morty, Ren and Stimpy, Beavis and Butthead. This is the one that got some controversy. I'm gonna say in a minute. The Colbert Report, Malcolm in the Middle. Now, obviously, you didn't want Tunes.
Well, not only that, but how is the Colbert Report a sitcom?
Well, that's funny because he produced an article that said a sitcom is a genre of comedy centered on a fixed set of characters who mostly carry over from episode to episode. The Colbert Report show focused on a fictional anchorman character named Stephen Colbert, played by his real life namesake. Now, my man Randy, not Ozga, but my man Randy, he said there is no way that is anything but a variety show. I defy that. And he challenged Rob to a duel. I don't know if that's going to happen yet, but they want pistols. Pistols are going to be brought out over here.
By that logic, the nightly news could be because they're not actually playing themselves; they're playing versions of themselves.
I would disagree with that because I mean, the nightly news isn't supposed to be fictional.
I think we've seen enough news stories lately where we know that it is, though.
Well, I'm just telling you. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of different variety of stuff here. Why don't you start off with some of your list here?
All right, hold on one second here. Let's pull up my first one. I'm actually going to start off with my wife.
There you go.
That's she's bringing the heat, and now I agree with a few of them on her list. For her sake, I'll agree with all of them.
Sure.
But there's definitely one on there I don't find even remotely funny. Yeah. So she liked Friends. Friends is funny to her.
Yeah.
The Office, which I'm sure you're going to see on a few lists. Which is weird. Truly. Which is weird to me because I thought that was just a documentary about a paper company, but whatever. She's got the Goldbergs, a Big Bang Theory, and then Grace and Frankie, which is the one that I don't even find even remotely funny.
I don't even know what that is.
Grace and Frankie is Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin as two retired women whose husbands both came out of the closet and ended up having a relationship with each other. One sells like vibrators, and the other one is just an
sounds
old
like a blast.
Lady. It's apparently very funny.
All right. Well, thank her for her list. I tell you, since I got two, why don't you hit me with another one?
Up next, let's see here. Sorry, I got to go back into my notes here. I got them all over the place here. We're gonna go with Scott from the great city of Voluntown.
Yes.
He's got The Simpsons, which we've already talked about.
Yep.
Married with Children. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Arrested Development and The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. To me, his list is interesting because he has one that to me broke the mold. Some of the ones on my list are going to break the mold a few years earlier, but one of the ones that broke the mold on his list was Married with Children. When that first came out on Fox, very controversial. Broke the mold of the everything's rosy in the family and
Sure.
went the complete opposite way and was very cutting edge. And then the Fresh Prince of Bel Air to me is your prototypical kind of sitcom, whereas It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Arrested Development are more of the 2000s sitcom where there are almost another form of a cookie cutter where it's a little bit different.
Now, you can correct me on this. Maybe you know too. Married with Children is also one of the very first shows on Fox, along with The Simpsons. Correct?
It was. The two of them actually were. Now, the funny thing is The Simpsons are a spinoff. That was actually
The Tracy Ullman
originally
Show.
the Tracy Ullman Show, which was one of the original shows on Fox. And it was such a popular segment that it's still going today.
Yeah.
The Simpsons literally is still going today.
Yeah,
so absolutely incredible.
Longer in terms of episodic TV is Monday Night Raw, according to Vince McMahon. But that's for another episode.
Yeah, that's
for another TV.
Which doesn't make sense to me because The Simpsons actually started before Raw.
Raw doesn't take any seasons off, right?
Well, that's why it would have more episodes. Is because it's every week, whereas The Simpsons plays reruns for half the year.
Vince should maybe take a page from The Simpsons. But anyway, I'm gonna hit you.
Vince is starting to look like the old guy in The Simpsons, though. So
I'm gonna hit you with a 1-2 punch here. I'm gonna give you two lists in a row again. Because I got Marissa and her husband Randy. Randy, as we know, was ready to throw pistols with Rob for the Colbert Report. That'll be set at a later date. But Randy's list was, and AJ, I know you're going to appreciate this first one: Get Smart, MASH, Married with Children, Arrested Development, and The Office. Now, Marissa, she had a top five. She had the Office as well, The Golden Girls, Arrested Development, and she didn't even want to say this one. She felt, violated to have to say this and really upset. The Cosby Show. Because she said what a dirtbag he turned out to be. Now, I said...
What does that have to do with how funny the show was?
Spoiler, it's going to be on one of my lists, too. I love The Cosby Show. We watch it. Yeah, so... Now, I will want to get your input on a couple of these, though. We'll go back to Randy's list because not many people are going to have Get Smart and MASH on here. What do you think about those two?
MASH was way ahead of its time. It is... They joked about something. You got to remember when MASH came out, they had the movie first. The movie actually came out before the TV show, and that's late 60s, and then the TV show's in the 70s. And you got to remember they were still within like 20 years of Korea when it first came out. So you had a lot of veterans that actually served in Korea, and now you're taking this comedic look at a conflict or a war that we were in with veterans where we lost human lives and somehow they managed to make it funny and popular and relevant. So once again, very cutting edge. I enjoyed MASH. I like things that take chances.
Yeah, that's good. I know there was a really dark season finale episode.
There was.
Rabbit hole with YouTube videos one day. And one of the guys, I don't know if he had multiple personalities, but he was basically talking about this woman was they were like on a, they were trying to keep quiet so they couldn't be heard. And he was basically telling her to keep the chicken quiet. And she like smothers this chicken to death. And then you find out it was actually the woman's baby. And it's like, well, that probably wasn't very funny, but that was the final episode.
But that's what MASH did. MASH was almost like a wrestling show, how you have your peaks and valleys. So they would do things that were really dramatic and sad, but then they would have to the other extreme, extremely funny moments. I mean,
that YouTube video was when things went a little too dark. So,
Well, they also had instances where they did things that they didn't do back then. They had Klinger who walked around in women's clothes all the time.
Sure.
Which back then, let's face it, was not commonplace like it is going to the store today.
You did that this morning.
Whatever the missus is into.
That's
but
right.
but the point is that a lot of the things that I like to see, especially when it comes to comedic sitcoms, is being not afraid to take chances. Unlike today, where you have to be nervous to take chances because you could be canceled if one person's upset at what you do.
All right. Well, with that, why don't you hit me with a list?
All right, so let's take a look here. We're gonna
My man
go
is
with.
prepared.
I have like 7 lists here, or 8 lists. So.
Yeah, I put them all on my phone, by the way, so that's a cheat code for you, just so you know.
No. I have some all under one line on the phone, but then I have 2 people who just got back to me who are both professional comics who we're going to go into late in a minute.
Oh man, name dropping. All right.
Yeah. But speaking of funny people, I've got Zach St. John,
Yeah.
Mrs. St. John's favorite baby boy. We've got The Office, Friends, Full House, Cheers, and The Fresh Prince. I'm a little surprised to see Full House on a grown man's favorite sitcoms of all time. However, I can see where people thought that was funny.
Well, you got to give him the time period. He grew up on that, and I bet you I wouldn't be surprised if we see that a few more times. I don't remember. So that TGIF Friday was huge for those kids back in that day. We were just a little out of that group.
I love the fact that he has Cheers there. That's definitely a sweet spot for me.
I'm sure you do. Now I got Mikey and Fred Facebook page. He sent me. You'll appreciate this. Friends, Cheers, Home Improvement, Seinfeld, and Family Matters.
So, they're good ones. Again. I got to tell you, I never liked Family Matters. We've talked about this in the past, where I don't like that Jerry Lewis style of silly, just comedy. That it's almost
Jerry
like
Lewis.
No. The reason, no, I'm saying that for a reason. The Urkel character reminds me of that same kind of comedy, that Jerry Lewis just comedy.
Good impression. I'm gonna say
I just don't think there's any intelligence to it. I think it's just somebody acting like a moron.
I don't know. I'd have to, again, that's part of that TGI Friday, and I would say if you look at the earlier episodes of Family Matters, Stephen Urkel wasn't even a character on there. Now, he came on later, and he was such a big hit, they had to have him on every show. And maybe I would agree with this. They heavily relied on him too much towards the end. But I think there's some good episodes in there.
All right. So let's do this. First of all, it was a spin-off of a comedic show that also was a little bit silly.
Perfect Strangers, which is an amazing show.
The mom actually worked in the office building and was the receptionist of the newspaper company in Chicago.
She ran the elevator, actually.
Was it the elevator? I thought she was the elevator. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But
I know this show.
No, you're right. And I actually preferred Perfect Strangers over Family Matters. I thought it was much smarter.
Hey, no argument here, but that's hard. That's tough competition, baby, because Perfect Strangers is one of the greatest shows of all time. So kiss my ass.
Yeah, I'm a little pissed off now because that's not on my list, and now I'm like, I put that on there. But that's the problem with trying to come up with a top 5 of something like this, is leaving things off and then going, oh yeah, frick.
Now, actually, I'm going to let you hit me with another list here. That was mine.
Absolutely. Hold on a second. If I had known that, I would not have chugged my kombucha. Let's see here. We've got from the main man, Randy Osga, not the Randy married to Marissa, but the other Randy.
No. OG Randy on this show.
OG Randy, yes. We've got Seinfeld, 2.5 Men, which I know is very popular. The Office, a show that I've been deep diving lately and watching again, Entourage, and Anger Management. So not a bad little list there.
He's a Charlie Sheen fan.
He definitely is. I did not watch the Entourage the first time it was on because I didn't want to pay for HBO. But I am.
You watch it on that HBO Max now? Somebody gave it to
you. We share some things.
Yeah. Not the
but I'm watching the Entourage and I'm actually finding it very entertaining now.
Interesting. So. Anger Management was okay. Anger
Management was a very short-lived show, but I thought that the premise was interesting.
I liked 2.5 Men. I thought that was good.
I don't like Charlie Sheen. I don't find him funny.
Yeah, what was the other episode? What's the other ones he had on that list? He mentioned a couple other things though.
He's got Seinfeld, which I know people love.
Seinfeld's great. I like Seinfeld.
And then The Office was the other one. That documentary.
I was gonna
about the
say,
paper
you know
company.
what? I don't think it's much of a spoiler, but the more these lists go on, I think Office is gonna have to be on our final one. They're getting a ton of votes right now.
But are you surprised by that?
No, people love The Office.
Yeah,
I thought it was a solid show. It doesn't make my top 5, but it's a solid
It's not
show.
even remotely near my top 5, to be honest with you.
Doesn't sound like you even like it by that tone.
No, I don't dislike them.
Mm-hmm.
I just never thought that it was as good. I think it's one of the more overrated.
Now, Jesse from New Hampshire has got this list. Seinfeld. And then he said he'd give me his real list, which he did, which also included Seinfeld, That 70s Show, The Partridge Family, Family Matters, and Saved by the Bell.
Wow. Saved by the Bell is horrible.
You know what? Actually, guest of the show, Soup Man, stand-up comedian who's doing a lot of great things. He also, I believe... Oh, no. That's another future guest we'll have on this show. Now I'm blanking out on the name. But, yeah, Soup Man. Saved by the Bell. There's a few people that like that one. So,
all right.
What about the Partridge Family? I bet you're a fan of that.
Partridge Family, I'm not a fan of. I was a Brady Bunch guy.
What?
Brady Bunch guy.
Why did you have to pick between the two? You couldn't like both of them?
You couldn't like both. You were either Partridge Family or you were Brady Bunch.
All right.
And to me, it was all about Marsha.
Yeah, no. I like both.
Remember when she got hit in the nose by Joe Namath?
Oh, it was Joe Namath? I don't remember. No, I thought it was
she didn't get hit by Joe Namath. She got hit by her brother when she was supposed to meet Davy Jones. And then they had Joe Namath on a separate one. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't know Joe Namath was throwing hands on Brady Bunch girls.
No, but my memory blends a little bit. It's been a little while since I've watched the Brady Bunch.
All right. What do you got?
Oh, is it me again?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
All right.
Yeah, that's you.
Sure. I got Mike Flynn.
Yeah.
That's something called Workaholics, which I assume is the Daniel Radcliffe.
It's on Comedy Central.
Sorry, I don't.
It's not the Harry Potter dude. No.
I don't know. I don't watch anything on Comedy Central. I find Comedy Central to not actually be funny.
Okay.
So
it did have the Chappelle show.
Yeah, and look where that went.
It was good. 2 seasons.
Short-lived. The Office, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Arrested Development, and something called Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah.
Which I assume is just about breast implants.
No. It was he explained it to me. It's actually a pretty good show. A few people have told me that. I haven't seen it though. I shouldn't say it's actually a good show. I've heard it's actually a good show from a few people though. But
we haven't heard. You know what we haven't heard yet, and it surprised me a little bit. I know a lot of people love Scrubs, and I haven't actually heard Scrubs on anybody's list.
I believe that is coming up on my next list, actually.
Hey, look at that.
Jake St. John.
Mrs. St. John's second favorite son. I love it.
He's got, now, for the record, he said his top 5 is actually The Office, The Office, The Office, The Office, The Office. And that's the Hall of Fame. But he said if you want to add on some other shows, he gave us Friends, Scrubs, Perfect Strangers, Cheers, and All in the Family. And
wow, good one.
He said also it's really tough to not leave his on. You know, he said there's a couple other honorary ones. He said don't get me started on Charles in Charge, Full House, all Hall of Famers in my mind, but not top 5. As you know, Jake loves to add a few extras.
The Jake St. John rule.
And you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and give this next list too. This is his girlfriend. He got her on it this time, who also said The Office, The Office, The Office, and The Office. But Full House.
You know we only count one per, right?
I know. They're obviously going in anyway at this point. Full House, Home Improvement, Family Matters, Step by Step, and I know you like this one, Boy Meets World, and she's also using the Jake rule herself, and she wants to make sure we mention Saved by the Bell and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
No. I've got producer Joe.
Yes.
That's Joe actually brought a couple good ones that we haven't heard yet. He's got Martin, which of course you know the Martin Lawrence.
I do.
And then he's got Titus, which
I know
actually
the Martin
another.
Lawrence.
Yes, that's
Thank you, Granddad.
Titus. I don't know if you remember the sitcom Titus.
I do.
That's the How I Met Your Mother.
That's a great one. Yeah.
That's which I believe I just came over your house, but whatever. Full House.
Yep.
And Family Matters. So,
all right. How many more lists you got?
I've got 3 more, including myself.
All right. I only have myself. I apparently gave too many. So why don't you give me your next 2?
All right. Here we go. For friend of the show and professional stand-up comedian Matt Heath.
Yes.
We have we actually have the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which he apparently found funny. The Golden Girls. So I'm starting to see a theme here.
Okay.
He actually apparently a big B. Arthur fan because he also has Maude.
Wow.
That's yeah. Then he has The Simpsons, which
he likes the time period here. I can tell.
Yeah. Then he likes The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And then his last one is actually Arrested Development. So very interesting.
I'll tell you right now, Office and Arrested Development are going to have to end up being in the final 2 here. At least. We'll have a talk about what makes it 3. But let's keep going. We're surprised.
I've got Pat Oates, who's a fairly well-known comedian in these parts, also a well-known lover of all things professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has, let's see here, Family Matters, which surprised the crap out of me.
Damn.
He's got Perfect Strangers.
Oh, hell yes.
Yes. He has Arrested Development,
Jesus.
The Office, and then so both of those making the list. And then he only sent me 4.
That's all that's needed. You caught The Office twice if you're Jake. So
yes.
So
and then we just have my list and your list to go.
All right. My list then. I went back and forth on some of these. So I'm just gonna go with for me it could be a lot of time periods. Like Scrubs was also kind of one I'd like to put on my list, but I figured I'd be a little different. I'm gonna throw some shows out here that maybe didn't get mentioned, some that did. The Cosby Show. I used to watch that with my family, so that one has a special place in my heart. How I Met Your Mother. One of my favorite sitcoms. Kind of got me back into sitcoms for a little while. Well, if
you were like everybody else, you met her at a dive bar.
Beautiful woman. Now, The Jeffersons, Sherman Hemsley. That won't probably get mentioned on anybody's list. All in the Family. I see you looking at me. You might just put it there. Another one that might not get mentioned on anyone's list, Sanford and Son. And then I'm going to also, like I said, throw a few honorable mentions out there myself.
You son of a bitch.
One I haven't heard yet today. I doubt they'll get mentioned. Three's Company. And another one is Perfect Strangers. I laugh because I think you will probably have you'll have Three's Company on your list.
I'm going to kill you. All right. So I've got Dick Van Dyke.
All right.
The Dick Van Dyke Show was absolutely hilarious. If anybody gets a chance to go back and watch it, and it's not just about Dick Van Dyke. The comedy team of Rosemary and Maury Amsterdam, who were his office and his fellow writers on the show, were absolutely fantastic.
What's the premise of it?
So the premise of the show for Dick Van Dyke, for the youngsters out there who may not have seen it, he's a family guy, but he's actually a comedy writer.
Okay.
And you got to remember, this is the early 60s. It literally started, I think, in 1960. Mm-hmm. And what the premise is back then, most of the shows were actually not in Los Angeles. Most TV shows were done from New York. So he lived in like New Rochelle, and he traveled into the city every day. And he was a comedy writer. So they would go into the office and they would show what it was like trying to write comedy. So him, Maury Amsterdam, and Rosemary would actually show and go through what they go through for trying to write a comedic show. Very enlightening, very funny, and way ahead of its time.
Okay.
Carl Reiner played the boss on it. He's hilarious.
That's a die. Apparently you love this show. Go on with the rest of your list. I apologize.
Three's Company, because John Ritter was the man.
Yeah, I like him, but he's a little bit of a silly guy, kind of like Jerry Lewis with his physical comedy. But
he did do his physical comedy, but he kept it within boundaries. And he was also phenomenal with Joyce DeWitt and Suzanne Summers. And then you had the Ropers, and then you had that horrible Don Knotts who would eventually show up.
Yeah, Don, he was great.
But that was actually good. Married with Children.
Okay.
once again ahead of its time. If you want to see a very funny episode of Married with Children, check out when Sam Kinison plays Al Bundy's guardian angel, similar to It's a Wonderful Life, and he comes down and Sam Kinison, his first response is he's like, "Oh, you're Al Bundy," and he goes, "Hold on a second," and he goes,
Yeah.
"Why, God, why?" Then I had Sanford and Son because I had to choose one between that and the Jeffersons, which were two of my favorite shows, and I went with Sanford and Son because I actually loved the relationship between Red Fox and then Lamont. I thought that the two of them were just absolutely phenomenal.
I like that some people get their real names and then some people their character names. You know who the big stars were.
Yeah,
you were going to mention Demon Wilson.
Yeah, Devon. Sorry, I know who the actor is. It's just if I say Devon Wilson, everybody's gonna be like
Demon. I think it's Demon.
Sorry, whatever. He can get the tables. That's and then my last one on the list actually is All in the Family.
All in the Family.
I think All in the Family. We talk about shows that were ahead of its time. All in the Family was so far ahead of its time. Half the people, you realize that there's a whole generation out there that think that Carol O'Connor was actually racist because they don't get the fact that it was a satire and that he was showing how foolish it is to be that stuck in your ways, racist, freaking. It's just so far ahead of its time, and I'm surprised, quite frankly, that it's. And I think it's only a matter of time before the cancel culture, who don't understand anything, go after it.
I thought he was an actor, but whatever. I thought he was playing a part. Anyway, I got automatically. Now these, I might be a little off on some of my votes, so I apologize, but I'm going to give The Office and Arrested Development. They're going to get the top two spots here.
You want to hear something funny?
What's that?
I have never seen a single episode of Arrested Development.
Interesting. You should get on that. It's a great show. They actually, you'll love the premise because you know how like they, like you try to play off jokes at a later time. Sometimes you don't go for that like snap humor. They not only try to do like when their idea of playing off a late joke isn't necessarily like later in the show. Sometimes it's the next season. Like they'll play a joke off the following season.
That actually sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really that's how I got to be like kind of cult. Well, I would say the first two seasons are awesome.
Here's the funny thing is I haven't watched the show. I'm actually a huge Jason Bateman fan. I remember when he was on the Hogan Family as a kid, and that show was not bad for a sitcom. Had a little bit of humor to it. But I've always liked Jason Bateman. I find him funny. I just for some reason never found time. And here's another one that didn't make the list that I'm very confused as to. Curb Your Enthusiasm didn't make anybody's list.
It made one list.
Did it?
Somebody had that. Yeah, I'm blanking out on who now, but
because I know a lot of people love that.
Yeah, that only made one list, but yeah, it did make one list. So fighting out for this third spot, which not saying they can't win it, but fighting out for the third spot, we're gonna have Fresh Prince, Family Matters, which actually might have even got enough votes to really be in the final three, but we're gonna put them in here. Seinfeld, and at the last minute, I decided just to throw this one in there because it got a couple extra votes. All in the Family.
All in the Family gets my vote.
I know what your vote would be.
Well, if producer Joe was here, we'd probably do this fair and square. However, producer Joe is not here today, so screw you guys in your fair and square.
Hold on. We'll put a little. Let me eliminate some people. Let's have a little battle off here.
Sure, Family Matters done.
Yeah, actually, I am going to kick Family. Even though a lot of people like that, they're going to get kicked off.
Perfect Strangers ended up getting a few votes in there.
They did. I could add them to this list. That would be Perfect Strangers, Fresh Prince, Seinfeld, and All the Family.
I don't like Seinfeld.
Well, that's great. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a little battle here. Let's do Seinfeld versus Fresh Prince.
Sure. Seinfeld to me wins that one, unfortunately.
Okay.
No, if you just go by sheer popularity of the show, while I enjoyed Fresh Prince more.
Okay.
However, I think Seinfeld was one of those shows that was number one in the ratings and stuff.
I'll sign off on that because I like Seinfeld. I like them both. All in the Family. And who was the other one we were talking about?
Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers, yeah.
I love Perfect Strangers. I do. Mark Lynn Baker, and then Bronson Pinchot was Balky Bartakamos, And of course, Mark Lynn Baker was
It's not as
cousin Larry.
iconic as All in the Family, though.
It's not, and it never will be. I mean, All in the Family, the furniture is in the Smithsonian, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, I think it's got to be All in the Family and Seinfeld battling out for this top third spot for me.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the rating systems that they used in the 1970s weren't the same as they did in the 90s and then the early 2000s for Seinfeld.
Right.
So you won't get an accurate like who was number one.
Yeah, here's my vote, and I'm going to tell you why. I love both shows. I actually had All in the Family on my list, but I didn't have Seinfeld. But the more I think about the argument, I'm kind of leaning towards Seinfeld, and I'll tell you why. One thing All in the Family did with their comedy that I'm not necessarily fan, they tried to make a lot of like political statements, and they tried to like have piss on that. I love the premise of Seinfeld, a show about nothing. Just let me veg out and have some like funny characters. And to me, that's what comedy is truly all about.
So here's the funny thing. The argument that you used for Seinfeld,
I'm actually trolling you because I knew you would probably do this. So.
Was actually the argument that I was going to do the opposite way.
Right. And I saw that coming a mile away, so I wanted just to eliminate that. Right.
I had no interest in Seinfeld. I didn't find it funny. It really was a show about nothing.
I'm going to give them a bite of the final three because I think if we put it'll just be biasness in there. And at least we have three shows that I look like at the bottom here now that you don't really know a lot about.
You're literally going to put three shows in the bottom that I absolutely can't stand.
So you don't know much about. You don't know anything about.
I don't know anything about Arrested Development, but The Office. Actually, I shouldn't say that because it's not that I can't stand The Office. First of all, it's a recreation. It's not even an original comedy. They literally just were taking a show from England and redoing it for an American audience.
Yeah,
that's
I love that.
Yeah, so it's not even an original show.
That doesn't bother me. I like repackage it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong.
See, I'm not all right with that. To me, comedy is something you come up with on your own and make work. But we're gonna have a disagreement on that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think given the fact you have not seen any Arrested Development, I am going to cut you a break on that. I am actually going to take them out. I actually really like Arrested Development. I'm going to, and this is all being fair, because Seinfeld wasn't even on the list, and I like Seinfeld.
That's weird, because I was going to give Arrested Development the
but that's not sense. You're just trying to like take out a show you don't like. So I'm going to put it down to Seinfeld or The Office. And I think, I'm also
The Office.
I'm also basing this on some of the success of both shows. Now, I am looking at this, and I do have to say, it's kind of tough to say. I know you just answered right away your vote, but I mean, to me, it's a tough call. But at the end of the day, I think part of this 5-3-1 is also the strength of what the fans and people write into us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And clearly, most of the people who write into us love the friggin' Office. We have multiple people who just
I want to actually say something on a serious note. Obviously, I'm teasing a little bit about both shows. Seinfeld, as much as it's not my cup of tea, just because Jerry Seinfeld's comedy is not my style. And I know it's Larry David was the writer behind it, and it's more of his style of comedy. But it's just not my style. But here's where the two things are similar. Both are ensemble casts. Both shows were made by the strength of the cast around them. And I think by the time you got to the end of The Office, that the cast had become so large and they were able to make all those work. Whereas Seinfeld always stayed with basically the core group, which was four of them. Yeah. But it was basically Elaine, Kramer,
George,
Jerry, and George.
Yeah.
And they did have other ones who would come and go.
Oh, sure.
But when it comes to The Office, you had such an eclectic group in there because you had such a variety. You had a black man in there. You had women in there. You had whatever the hell Dwight is. You had freaking Michael. It's just such an interesting one. And then, of course, everybody loves the storyline between Jim and Pam. Although I preferred Andy and whoever the receptionist was.
Clearly, by whoever she was.
Well, I know the actress is Ellie Kemper.
Yes.
Kemper, but I cannot remember what her name was on the show.
Well, I said honestly, the passion of the people who wrote into this show, they love The Office, and honestly, people just like still today. I mean,
Mhm.
they have still so much. People love The
I
Office.
see
They love to go back
see
and watch.
I see Dunder Mifflin sweatshirts and T-shirts every day.
Yeah, I know a few people on this list that wrote us that have that. All right.
Whereas when's the last time I've seen a Seinfeld freaking T-shirt?
I'm gonna order one now just so that. All right, guys. Well, at the end of the day, The Office won it. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? I know AJ thinks we probably got it wrong. He
All
probably
in the
wants to give it
family.
to All in the Family, but they ain't getting it to the
Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke. Sure as hell ain't getting those fucking number one on this show. But that'll do it for us. Man called Dave, AJ Strangebrew. We're out.